Story 1. The Last Post. The rain hammered against the blue Corsa's windshield like stray bullets. Marcos adjusted the wipers to maximum speed, but still could barely make out the yellow line in the middle of BR 116. It was already 3 in the morning, and he had been driving for 8 straight hours, fleeing Sao Paulo after receiving a phone call that changed his life forever. "Your brother is dead," the police officer's harsh voice had said. "Road accident. You need to come identify the body." Now, the fuel reserve light blinked insistently on the dashboard. The needle was almost at 0, and there had been no sign of a gas station for miles. The road snaked between hills covered with Atlantic rainforest, and the only illumination came from his car's headlights, creating a tunnel of yellowish light that disappeared into the darkness. That's when he saw the faded sign, Estrella Gas Station, 2 kilometers. The relief was immediate but brief. When he reached the location, he found a structure that seemed to have seen better days decades ago. The gas pumps were old, the type that still had mechanical displays, and the small store was lit by a single fluorescent lamp that flickered intermittently. Marcos parked near the pump and honked. Nothing. He honked again, longer. The store door opened with a metallic screech that cut through the night, and an elderly man emerged from the shadows. He was thin, hunched, with disheveled gray hair and eyes that reflected the headlight beams like those of a nocturnal animal. "Good evening," said Marcos, getting out of the car. "I need to fill up the tank." The old man observed him for a long moment before responding, as if evaluating something invisible. "Of course, young man. But you'll have to pay cash. The card machine doesn't work at night." Marcos nodded and held out his debit card. "I only have cards." "Then you'll have to go to town. It's about 50 kilometers from here." 50 kilometers? Marcos looked at the gas gauge. "I won't make it." "Can't you make an exception?" The old man smiled, revealing yellowed and crooked teeth. "There's a way. But it'll cost more than money." Something in the man's tone made Marcos instinctively step back. "What do you mean by that?" "Come inside, young man. Let's talk properly." The store smelled of burnt oil and something Marcos couldn't identify, a sweet, nauseating odor that stuck in his throat. The shelves were half empty, with dusty, expired products. On the counter, there was a small television tuned to static, and the sound crackled softly, filling the silence. "Do you know why this station is still operating?" asked the old man, positioning himself behind the counter. "All the others closed years ago. They built the new highway on the other side of the mountain range. This one became a ghost road." "Then why is it still open?" "Because there are people who still need to pass through here. People like you." The old man's eyes gleamed. "People who are running from something. Or going to find something." Marcos felt a chill run up his spine. "Look, I just need gasoline. If you can't accept cards, I'll turn around and look for another station." "You won't find another open station at this hour. And even if you did—" The old man's smile widened. "You wouldn't make it there. Are you threatening me?" "I'm offering a deal. Enough gasoline to get where you need to go. In exchange for a small thing." "What thing?" The old man pointed to an old camera in the corner of the store. "I want you to tell your story. Why you're driving alone in the early morning. Where you're going. What you're running from." Marcos laughed, more from nervousness than humor. "That's it. You want me to record a statement?" "Something like that. I have a collection of stories. People who pass through here in the dead of night always have interesting stories." The proposal seemed strange, but harmless. Marcos looked outside again, at his car and the gas gauge at 0. He didn't have much choice. "All right. But then you fill up my car. Word of honor." The old man turned on the camera, which began rolling with a soft mechanical sound. Marcos took a deep breath and began to speak. He told about the call, about his brother's death, about how they hadn't spoken for 5 years because of a silly fight about inheritance. He told about the guilt he felt, about how he should have answered the calls his brother made trying to reconcile. The more he spoke, the more relieved he felt. It was as if he were confessing, releasing a weight he had carried for years. The old man listened in silence, nodding occasionally, his eyes fixed on Marcos with hypnotic intensity. When he finished, There were tears in his eyes. The old man turned off the camera and smiled. "Thank you. It was a very nourishing story." "Nourishing? Sorry. A very touching story." The old man put the camera in a drawer behind the counter. "Now, about the gasoline. You can fill it up. Actually, I need to clarify something. I said it would cost more than money. I didn't say it wouldn't cost money too." Marcos felt irritation growing. "What do you mean?" "The story was payment for the gasoline. But you still need to pay for the fuel. 60 reis. I don't have 60 reis in cash." "Then we have a problem." Marcos looked around the store, searching for a solution. That's when he noticed the photographs on the wall behind the counter. There were dozens of them, all in black and white, showing people sitting exactly where he had been moments before. Men, women, some young, others elderly. All with the same expression, a mixture of relief and exhaustion, as if they had just vented about something that tormented them. "How many people have recorded stories here?" asked Marcos. "Many. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Over the years. And they all paid for gasoline afterward?" The old man's smile widened, becoming something predatory. "Not all of them." Marcos felt his blood freeze. What happened to those who didn't pay? "Well, they stayed here, helping at the station. There's a lot of work to be done." That's when Marcos heard, or thought he heard, voices whispering coming from the back of the store. Low, multiple voices, like a desperate chorus. He looked toward the sound, but only saw a dark corridor leading to the back of the establishment. "Are you hearing this?" he asked. "Hearing what?" The voices seemed to be calling his name now. "Marcos. Marcos. Stay with us, Marcos." Those voices. The old man tilted his head, as if listening. "Ah, yes. Those are the employees in the back. Night workers. Very dedicated. They never leave the station." Marcos ran to the door, but it wouldn't open. He pulled the handle hard, but it seemed welded shut. "What's happening? Open this door." "Calm down, young man. No need to despair. Just accept the job. It's easy. Just help with the station. Forever." "You're crazy. Let me out." Marcos looked for other exits, but the windows were boarded up. Desperation took over him. He grabbed an oil can from a shelf and threw it at the glass door. The glass shattered, but there were iron bars on the outside. "It's no use, young man. Nobody leaves without paying. One way or another." The voices from the back got louder, more insistent. Marcos could make out words now. "Join us. It's better here. You'll never have to worry about anything again." "How long have they been back there?" asked Marcos, backing up until he hit the counter. "Some for decades. Others arrived last week. Time doesn't matter much here. Everyone gets used to it eventually." Marcos looked again at the photographs on the wall. Now he realized they weren't just customer records, they were trophies. Each photo represented someone who had been captured by this place. "My brother," he murmured. "Did he pass through here?" The old man consulted an old notebook behind the counter. "Yes. Actually, he arrived 3 days ago. He's helping with pump maintenance." "Want to see him? Is he dead?" Definition is a complicated thing, young man. "He's here. Working. Like all the others." Marcos felt his legs weaken. The police call, the accident, it had all been a lie. His brother had stopped at this station, just like him, and had never left. "Please," he begged. "I have family. People who will miss me." Everyone had that. In the beginning. But then they realize it's better this way. No worries, no responsibilities. Just the simple work of the station. The old man came out from behind the counter and approached. Up close, Marcos could see that his skin had a strange texture, like old leather, and his eyes were completely black. "Come. I'll introduce you to your colleagues." Marcos backed away, but was already against the wall. There was nowhere to go. The voices from the back transformed into a hypnotic chant, calling him, welcoming him. He felt his eyelids grow heavy, his will to resist diminish. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe. Marcos. The voice came from behind the counter. A familiar voice. Marcos forced his eyes open and saw a man emerging from the back corridor. It was his brother, only different. Paler, with the same black eyes as the old man. Marcos, good that you came. We were waiting for you. You are dead. Not exactly. I'm working. It's a good life here. No stress, no bills to pay. Just work. This isn't right. We have to get out of here. His brother shook his head sadly. We can't leave, Marcos. But we can stay together. Forever. Wasn't that what you always wanted? For us to be a family again. Marcos looked at his brother, then at the old man, then at the photographs on the wall. All those people, all captured by the same trap. And now it was his turn. No, he said, with a determination he didn't know he possessed. I won't stay. He grabbed the chair near the counter and threw it against the wall of photographs. The frames broke, the glass shattered. The old man screamed in rage. You can't do that. Those are my memories. Marcos continued destroying the photographs, stomping on them. With each destroyed image, the voices from the back grew weaker, more desperate. The old man tried to grab him, but Marcos pushed him away. You don't understand, the old man shouted. Without the stories, without the souls, the station can't function. It will collapse. Indeed, the ceiling began to crack, and a supernatural wind began to blow inside the store. The shelves swayed, products fell. Marcos ran to the door and, miraculously, this time it opened. He ran to his car in the rain that had started again. He started the engine and stepped on the accelerator, without looking back. In the rearview mirror, he saw the station collapsing on itself, enveloped in a strange, supernatural light. He drove for hours, until the gasoline finally ran out. But now he was on a busy road, with a real gas station in sight. When he told his story to the police later, no one believed him. They said there was no station at the coordinates he indicated. Just weeds and an old concrete foundation, abandoned for decades. But Marcos knew the truth. And he never drove alone at night again. Story 2. The Woman in White. Daniel never believed in ghosts. At 42 years old, he was a practical man, a civil engineer, married, father of 2 children. His only concerns were construction projects and delivery deadlines. So when the construction site colleagues in Curitiba began telling stories about the woman in white who appeared on BR 376, he just laughed and shook his head. You guys watch too many horror movies, he would say while reviewing architectural plans. Highway ghost, what nonsense. But on Friday night, when he had to drive back to Sao Paulo alone, Daniel began to reconsider his convictions. BR 376 at night was an asphalt serpent cutting through the Serra do Mar mountains. Sharp curves, steep descents, and a persistent fog that seemed to sprout from the mountains themselves. Daniel kept his speed low, hands firm on the wheel of his black Civic. The radio played soft country music, breaking the silence of the early morning. It was 2:30 in the morning when he saw her for the first time. A woman was walking alone on the shoulder, wearing something white that floated in the wind. Daniel slowed down, concerned. What woman would be walking alone on a deserted road at that hour? He stopped the car a few meters ahead and turned on the hazard lights. In the rearview mirror, he saw the figure approaching slowly. He rolled down the passenger window. "Need help?" he shouted. The woman stopped. Even with the light from the taillights, Daniel couldn't see her face clearly. She seemed to be wearing a long white dress, or perhaps a nightgown. Her hair was dark and long, falling over her shoulders. "Can you give me a ride to Sao Paulo?" she asked. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but Daniel could hear perfectly despite the distance. "Of course, get in." The woman approached the car. Daniel opened the passenger door from inside, but kept his eyes on the road ahead, waiting to feel the movement of someone sitting beside him. When he finally looked to the right, she was already there, with her seatbelt fastened. "Thank you," she said. "My name is Helena." "Daniel, what were you doing alone on the road?" Helena took a while to respond. Daniel could feel her gaze on him, but when he tried to look at her, she was looking out the window. "My car broke down," she finally said. "A few kilometers back." The cell phone doesn't work here in the mountains. It made sense. Daniel accelerated again, maintaining constant speed through the curves. The fog was getting denser, forcing him to reduce speed even more. "Do you come this way often?" asked Helena. "Only when I need to work in Curitiba." "And you?" "I spend a lot of time here." Daniel found the answer strange, but didn't insist. He turned the radio up a little, looking for a station that wasn't off the air. All of them hissed with static. "The radio doesn't work well here," he commented. "Too much interference," Helena agreed. "The mountains do that." They drove in silence for a few kilometers. Daniel began to feel drowsy. It had been a long workday, and the monotonous road didn't help. He shook his head, trying to stay alert. "Tired?" asked Helena. "A little. But it's okay. We'll reach the flatter part soon. Want me to drive for a while?" Daniel laughed. "Thanks, but I prefer to drive my own car." When he looked at Helena to smile, he was startled. For a moment, in the reflection of the window glass, he had seen something different. Her face seemed injured, cut, bloody. He blinked and looked directly at her. Helena was normal, with a pale but beautiful face, without any wounds. "Is everything okay?" she asked, noticing his expression. Yes. Just fatigue." But Daniel couldn't get rid of the image he had seen in the reflection. He decided to keep talking to stay awake. "Do you live in São Paulo?" "I used to," Helena replied. "Now, it's complicated." "What do you mean?" "Let's say my situation changed recently." Daniel felt growing discomfort. There was something about the way she spoke, the long pauses between words, that made him nervous. "How long ago did your car break down?" "What day is it today?" The question was so simple, but the way she asked it, with genuine confusion, alarmed Daniel. "Friday. The 15th. What month?" "October." Helena was silent for a long moment. "October," she repeated, as if processing the information. "It's been so long." "So long since what?" "Since the accident." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. "What accident?" "The accident that brought me here." The fog was so dense now that Daniel had to reduce speed to less than 40 kilometers per hour. The headlights seemed useless, creating only a white wall in front of him. "Helena," said Daniel, trying to keep his voice calm. "What kind of accident?" "A car accident. Right here, on this road." Daniel swallowed hard. "When?" "In October. On a Friday night." "Like tonight." The car seemed to get colder suddenly. Daniel turned on the heater, but the air coming out of the vents was freezing. "Helena, are you okay? Are you cold?" When he looked at her, Helena was different. Paler, if that was possible. And there was something dripping from her forehead, something dark that stood out against her white skin. "I'm always cold now," she said. "Since the accident." Daniel stopped the car on the shoulder, his heart beating fast. He turned on the interior light and turned completely to look at Helena. What he saw made him scream. Her face was destroyed. Deep cuts crossed her cheeks, one eye was swollen and purple, and blood dripped from a wound on her forehead. But she continued smiling, as if nothing was wrong. "Daniel, why did you stop the car?" "Your face. You're hurt." Helena touched her own face gently, and her hand came away stained with blood. "Oh, that. It's from the accident. It hasn't healed properly yet. We need to take you to a hospital." "No. No," she said, shaking her head. "They already tried to help me. It didn't work." Daniel grabbed his phone to call an ambulance, but there was no signal. The screen showed "no service" in red letters. "Helena, what really happened to you?" She turned to look out the window, at the thick fog surrounding them. "I was driving alone. Coming back from Curitiba to São Paulo, just like you. It was a night like this, foggy, cold, silent." "Continue." "There was another car. A truck, actually. The driver was drinking. He invaded the opposite lane right at the curve." Helena paused, as if reliving the moment. "I tried to swerve, but there wasn't time." Daniel felt a chill run through his body. "And then I died." The words hung in the cold air of the car. Daniel looked at Helena, searching for some sign that she was joking, but the expression on her face, even injured, was one of total seriousness. "You can't be dead. You're talking to me. Am I?" Helena smiled, a sad and gentle smile. "Daniel, look around you. Really look." Daniel looked out the window. The fog had completely dissipated, as if it had never existed. They were no longer on the road. They were on a gravel shoulder, near a sharp curve. And there, a few meters ahead, were the remains of a completely destroyed white car. "No," Daniel murmured. "This isn't happening." "That's my car," said Helena, pointing to the wreckage. "That's where I died. 3 years ago." Daniel got out of the car, staggering. He approached the wreckage and could see there were withered flowers scattered around, tributes left by relatives or friends. A small wooden cross was stuck in the ground, with a plaque that read, "Helena Rodriguez, 1985 to 2021, rest in peace." 3 years, said Helena, who had appeared beside him silently. 3 years I've been here, waiting. Waiting for what? Someone who could see me. Someone who could hear me. Someone who could help me. Daniel turned to her. Helena seemed more transparent now, as if she were fading. "Help how? I need someone to tell my story." The truck driver fled. He was never arrested. My family, they never knew the truth. What truth? That he was drunk. That it was his fault. That I wasn't driving dangerously, as they said in the investigation. Daniel looked again at the wreckage, then at the cross with Helena's name. "How can I prove that?" "The truck hit there," she pointed to a tree on the other side of the road. "There should still be red paint on the bark. And he lost his front license plate. It should be somewhere around here." Daniel carefully crossed the road. The tree Helena had indicated had a clear impact mark, and there was indeed red paint on the bark. He searched the ground around it and found a truck license plate half buried among the leaves. "Found it!" he shouted. But when he turned around, Helena had disappeared. Daniel stood alone on the deserted road, holding a rusty truck license plate, beside the wreckage of a car where a woman had died 3 years before. He returned to his own car, which was exactly where he had stopped, with the interior lights still on. On the passenger seat, there was a small damp spot, the only evidence that Helena had been there. Daniel drove straight to the nearest police station. He handed over the license plate and reported his discovery, omitting only the details about how he had found the evidence. The investigation was reopened, and the truck driver was finally identified and arrested. 6 months later, Daniel returned to the accident site. The cross was still there, but now there were fresh flowers and a new plaque, "Helena Rodriguez, justice was done." He never saw Helena again. But sometimes, driving on BR 376 at night, he felt a friendly presence in the passenger seat, not frightening, just grateful. And he never again laughed when someone told ghost stories on the road. Story 3. The Detour. The storm began when Marcus was only 20 kilometers from home. What had been light rain throughout his business trip turned into a violent tempest that made his BMW shake with every gust of wind. The windshield wipers worked at maximum speed, but it was still difficult to see the road. Marcus was a medical equipment salesman and knew the region well. He had lived in Londrina for 15 years and had traveled that route dozens of times. But he had never seen a storm like that one. The GPS began to blink, losing signal. The screen only showed "recalculating route" repeatedly. Marcus slowed down and turned on the radio to hear the weather report, but could only pick up static. That's when he saw the sign, "Detour, construction on road, 5 kilometers." Marcus frowned. He didn't remember any construction work announced on that highway. But with that torrential rain, perhaps some emergency had arisen. He followed the signs, entering a secondary road he had never noticed before. The detour road was narrower and had no asphalt, just gravel that made the car bounce with every pothole. The trees on both sides formed a kind of green tunnel that blocked what little natural light remained. Marcus turned on the headlights and reduced speed even more. 15 minutes later, he began to worry. According to his calculations, he should have already found another sign indicating the return to the main highway. But the gravel road continued winding through the forest, with no sign of civilization. He decided to stop and call his wife. The cell phone had no signal. "Damn," he muttered, putting away the device. He decided to continue a little longer. Surely he would soon find the exit. But as he drove, Marcus began to have the strange sensation that he was passing through the same places. A fallen tree on the left side, a large rock on the right side, a sharp curve that went up a small hill. Everything seemed familiar, as if he had seen it before. He stopped the car and got out in the rain to check the tires, using this as an excuse to observe the environment better. The road really seemed to be the same one he had traveled minutes before. But that was impossible. He had always maintained the same direction. He returned to the car soaked and continued driving. The rain was diminishing, but the feeling of being lost only increased. That's when he saw a light in the distance. It was a house. Marcus felt relief. He could ask for directions and use the landline to call his wife. He drove toward the light and found a small wooden house with a covered porch. There was an old car parked beside it, a blue Chevette that seemed to have seen better days. He parked near the house and ran to the porch to shelter from the rain. He knocked on the door. "Hello. Is anyone there? I need help." The door opened slowly, revealing a middle-aged man with graying hair and a friendly smile. Come in, come in. Terrible rain, isn't it?" Marcus entered, grateful. The house was simple but cozy, with old furniture and the smell of fresh coffee in the air. "Thank you. My name is Marcus. I'm lost. I took a detour because of construction work, but ended up getting lost on this gravel road." The man, who introduced himself as João, served him a cup of hot coffee. "What construction?" "I don't know of any construction on the highway." There was a sign indicating a detour. "Construction on the road." João shook his head, thoughtfully. "Strange. I've lived here for 20 years and never saw a construction sign there. And this road isn't a detour to anywhere." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" "This road here only leads to one place, the old Mendonça farm. It's been abandoned for years. After that, there's only forest. But I need to get back to the highway. How do I do that?" João looked out the window, where the rain had stopped completely. "It's simple. Go back the same way you came. Just follow the road." Marcus thanked him, finished the coffee quickly, and headed to the car. João accompanied him to the porch. "Be careful on the way back," said João. "This road sometimes confuses people." Marcus found the comment strange, but waved and got in the car. He made a U-turn and began driving back on the gravel road, now in the opposite direction. But after 15 minutes of driving, he saw something that made him stop the car abruptly. The same wooden house, with the same blue Chevette parked beside it. "This is impossible," he murmured. He got out of the car and walked to the house. The light was on and there was smoke coming from the chimney. He knocked on the door again. The same door opened, revealing the same João with the same friendly smile. Come in, come in. Terrible rain, isn't it?" Marcus was paralyzed. "João, it's me, Marcus. I was here just a few minutes ago." João looked at him with apparent confusion. "Sorry, I don't remember you. Come in, it's raining." Marcus looked up. Indeed, it was raining again, although minutes before the sky had been clear. He entered the house, disturbed. Everything was exactly the same furniture, the same coffee smell, the same arrangement of objects. "João, we need to talk. Something very strange is happening here." "What are you talking about, young man?" "Sit down, I'll serve some coffee." "I don't want coffee. I want to understand what's happening. How could I have returned to your house if I was driving in the opposite direction?" João served the coffee anyway, with the same naturalness as before. "Calm down, friend. You're nervous. Explain your situation properly." Marcus took a deep breath and told again about the detour, about getting lost on the road, about having been in that same house minutes before. João listened attentively, asking the same questions, giving the same answers. "What construction?" "I don't know of any construction on the highway." "João, you're repeating exactly the same conversation as before." "What conversation?" "This is the first time we're talking." Marcus stood up, desperate. This can't be happening. Where is the Mendonça farm you mentioned? What farm? I don't know any Mendonça farm. Now Marcus was certain that something supernatural was happening. He ran out of the house, ignoring João's shouts for him to come back. He got in the car and accelerated down the gravel road, this time determined to find an exit. He drove for an hour, always in the same direction, without making any turn that could confuse him. But inevitably, he ended up passing by the wooden house again. And it started raining again. Marcus stopped the car in front of the house and began to shout, "What do you want from me? Why can't you let me leave?" The door opened. João appeared with the same friendly expression. "Come in, come in. Terrible rain, isn't it?" This time, Marcus didn't enter. He ran around the house, looking for clues, some explanation. That's when he found, in the back of the property, a small family cemetery with 3 wooden crosses. He approached the crosses to read the names. The first said, Maria Santos, 1943 to 1987. The second, Pedro Santos, 1940 to 1987. And the third. Marcus felt his blood freeze. The third cross said, João Santos, 1945 to 1987. João died over 30 years ago, he whispered to himself. That's true. Marcus turned around. João was standing behind him, but now he seemed different. More transparent, and there was a deep sadness in his eyes. You're dead. Yes. My wife Maria and my son Pedro too. Car accident on the road. A stormy night, like this one. Then what's happening here? João sighed. This road, it catches people who are lost. People like you, who follow detours that don't exist. And brings them here. Why? Because we've been alone for so long. We want company. Someone to talk to serve coffee to. João paused. To stay. Marcus backed away. I can't stay. I have family. I have a life. Everyone who comes here has family. Has a life. Had. What do you mean by had? João pointed to the road. Do you think you drove for an hour always in the same direction? Without making turns? Yes. This road is only 2 kilometers long, Marcus. It's a circle. If you drove for an hour always in the same direction, then... Marcus understood with horror. Then I'm dead. The accident happened when you made that first turn. In the rain, on the wet gravel. The car skidded and hit the tree. You died instantly. Marcus looked at his own hands. Now that he knew the truth, he could see they were translucent, like João's. But I remember everything. The coffee, the conversations. The dead remember everything, Marcus. Especially the last moments. You're reliving the time between the accident and the moment your soul accepts that you died. Marcus sat heavily on the ground. My family, they'll look for me. They'll find your body the next morning. The BMW crashed against a tree 2 miles from where you took the detour. What detour? There was no construction work, was there? João shook his head. The storm made you lose your way. You entered this road by mistake, driving too fast for the road conditions. Marcus remained silent for a long moment, processing the truth. And now? Now you have a choice. You can accept what happened and move on to wherever souls go after. Or you can stay here with us. We always have fresh coffee and the company is good. Marcus thought of his wife, of his children who were waiting for his return. If I stay, they'll never get over my death. If you leave, you'll never see them again. But they'll be able to move on with their lives. João smiled, a sad but understanding smile. You're a good man, Marcus. That's why we like you. Marcus stood up and looked one last time at the house where he had spent his last hours as a lost soul. Take care, João. Thanks for the coffee. Thanks for the company. Marcus began walking down the gravel road, but now it seemed different. Wider, more illuminated. With each step, he felt lighter, more at peace. When he looked back for the last time, the house had disappeared. And Marcus moved forward, to wherever souls go when they finally accept to depart.